Well, hey there, this is Anthony Metivier, and let's motor on with another set of mnemonic images to help us learn Chinese on day 11 of our challenge. And if you missed day 10, that's what it looked like. You definitely want to go back and check it out, and maybe you remember day 9 as well, or maybe even day 8, which is a really exciting one and a very powerful and useful question to have. But one of the things that you'll notice between what we're going to do today and in the previous day is that there's some characters we get to use again. So we've got now Swayze at the beginning. And look, the Karate Kid is somewhere in the middle. What can be going on here? Well, let's throw on the pinyin and see what's happening on day 11 here. And so one of the reasons why that Swayze jumps around is because we are looking at a different kind of question here, and it gives some insights and secrets into Chinese grammar. Now, I'm not going to pretend to be a Chinese grammar teacher, and certainly not a Chinese pronunciation teacher. This is all about mnemonics, why they work, how they work, what they can do for you, and the higher order thinking of what's going on in the mind of a mnemonist who creates these images and starts layering them down using a memory palace technique in order to get them into long-term memory, and then share with you a little bit about where that I've sourced these phrases. And someone said, hey, I can copy these phrases and translate them into German. And I said, please ask permission first before you do that, because I myself am borrowing these phrases with permission from someone who put a lot of time and effort and work into giving them to the world. And so that's really, really important. And you never know, you might get permission to do that, as I myself did. But hopefully you are doing that with a great mission for the world that will help them with their learning goal. And of course, there are phrases many under the sun that you could come up with on your own and think deeply about what people might want to say in German that might be different than in Chinese. So in this case, this is something that one would want to know how to say auf Deutsch, but we're here on German, and these examples are very, very precious. So I appreciate the people who are letting me use them, and it's all in conjunction with something called the Real Spoken Chinese Vault, and you get native speakers like this that you can basically press all these buttons and hear the questions that they ask and the answers that they give as many times as you want. And it's really, really exciting. It's a powerful tool in my Chinese learning practice, and I'm so grateful for the opportunity to be able to use the questions as a source and share with you guys how it is that I am making images to help me remember not just the sound of these phrases, but also the meaning. So let's look at the sound and the meaning and what's going on in my brain. And this is admittedly quite a complex one. They're not all as long as this, but we're going through a certain spell. And you know what? It's good for your practice if you can stretch a little. So this is quite a lot, but it's cool because it gives just enough tension for me, and I like the challenge. And I memorize cards almost every day and push and see what I can do, and the accuracy rate grows over time, and it also helps with being like, if you can hold 52 cards in memory, then that makes this a lot less complicated, if you know what I mean. So I highly recommend that you do daily card practice. There's also something about having a creativity exercise before you go into mnemonics for language learning is really, really helpful and profound, and it just brings your brain up to speed, and you have a lot more fun as a result because it's easier, or at least it has that feeling of ease because you've warmed up. And so it's just like going to the gym. You warm up your muscles and then you do the heavy lifting, or a warm-up set with light weights before you do the heavy weights. So I do cards before I sit down and create images for Chinese and encode them. And then I find that I'm just much more fit for this heavy lifting, so to speak, of lots of images. Now, of course, keep in mind too, if you've been following this series, that I have reused Eeyore here, and Mr. Silly comes up again and again and again. And that Frenchman isn't just any old Frenchman. we have a stand-in here, but it's someone that I spent time with, and Shania Twain comes up again and again and again, and these figures can be used again and again and again to help you. They become your friends, and in the magnetic memory method, they're called bridging figures, and they're very powerful. This is a concept that you want to know and learn and use in your own memory practice. Now, let's get started with this one and see what's going on here. So we got Patrick Swayze, and he is toppling Jin on Eeyore, who's swatting his tail at Mr. Silly, and Mr. Silly is falling onto this German guy's beer as he dances on the Ja Mobile card. And so what I'm doing here is, using my personal mythology from pop culture, experiences that I've had, the fact that I know German is very useful, and that's one part of this phrase. So when I think about it, I'm like, okay, so 催紧一词对家. Again, I'm not like a pronunciation teacher, but that's how it works. And, when you are able to hear the native speakers, it's very, very helpful because you can match that and you can play this little movie in your head. And I don't exactly see a little movie in my head, but you can do something like that. And some of the great mnemonic teachers of the past and the present moment even have taught that, get your images going and play them like a little movie, or think of them as a little movie and do forward and backward and speed it up if you can, or slow it real down so it's real slow. And that can help. Every little trick that you can bring to the game, the more you're going to get this stuff into long-term memory fast. And you just need a pattern of recall practice that's called recall rehearsal in the magnetic memory method, and it'll help. Now, carrying on, we've got the Karate Kid, and he's fighting the zoo that we've seen before, the zoo sign. And this Frenchman, who in my mind is a very specific Frenchman, is breaking bread on Stephanie Xie. And she's wearing, incidentally, not by mistake, an Eeyore costume to help bring more integrity to the image. And then she's going to escape with Shania Twain on her horse. And Shania Twain on a horse always is the bridging figure that I use for Genma, and it's very, very useful. And, it's one of those things where you kind of got to get used to the fact that Genma comes up a lot in Chinese, and you will over time. So what does this mean? Well, it means recently, one time, go on vacation, you did some what? And that's the Genma. And it's really, really great. Also, you'll get like a grammar sort of principle with this la thing here, which is what the Frenchman is all about. That's what he stands in for as a sign. And so you can use bridging figures for words that you are used not so much as having noun functions or adjective functions, but just have simple grammatical or temporal functions in terms of giving you a tense. So what tense that you're initiating in your speech. I feel like my way of speaking has gotten overly complicated with diction here, and it's partly because of what I'm reading. I don't know, are you as influenced by reading as I am? If I tend to read very literate texts, I start to speak with a much more advanced literary diction, and that may or may not be a good thing. But one cool thing, and I want to make a shout out to Barbara Oakley and thank her for she shared the podcast episode that I did recently on 11 reasons why you should reread a book once a month. And it was really extraordinary to see so many people coming and sharing that post and downloading the podcast episode. Really grateful for that. And so if you haven't gone and checked that out, please check that episode out and let me know what book you're rereading, because some people have been mentioning some books that are well worth reading in the first place if you haven't read them, and then rereading in the second place if you have read them before but need to start using your memory at a higher level in order to reread them and access some parts of your memory that are just so powerful if you reactivate them. And so I give you a lot of cool ideas and strategies on that post that you should check out. Now, getting back to Chinese, here's the most beautiful thing in the world, and that is getting to hear phrases like these spoken not by me learning Chinese along with you, but by genuine native Chinese speakers, and more than one. And not only more than one, but 6 with complete answers from 6 different people, regional dialects, and just amazing stuff. And you can get that at a beginner's level, you can get it at an elementary level, you can get it at an intermediate level, and that's all available to you through the Real Spoken Chinese Vault. And I have a special link that if you use that, it's magneticmemorymethod.com/YT Chinese, then what you're going to get is a number of bonuses. And those bonuses are going to unlock my private, well, it's actually more than private, it's secret Facebook group. And there's been some really neat things that have been popping up in there. I'm so grateful for the interaction, particularly with Robert Huggins. I want to point out his sharing has been really incredible there. And, he talks about how he memorized the numbers and just 1 to 10, but once you know 1 to 10, you basically can do 1 to 99. So it was cool how he shared what he did and how fast that he did it, just using a memory palace and the magnetic memory method. So you get that, and you get all these really incredible benefits of the Chinese Vault itself, right? Like being able to hear people express the same thing in a number of ways, using fillers, hesitation, incomplete sentences, speaking just from the hip, the way I like to shoot these videos, from the hip, and natural speed in Chinese, connected speech, the variety of voices and accents, male, female, young, old, people who are just so incredibly in touch with the land, or very urban people. It's really great. They're real people, and they have their real opinions and feelings. And I want you to know how to use a memory palace to lay out these images in space and in a couple of different ways, so that you're going to get the bonus access to how to use the Real Spoken Chinese Vault with the magnetic memory method. I'm also going to give you something called tone control, which is a way of letting yourself remember the tones, because Chinese does have this musical character. Although, the more I think about it, English has a musical character as well. We just don't number the tones that we speak as categorically as in Chinese, but this little training will help you with that. And then you're going to get the Ultimate Language Learning Secret, which is a full video course, and it is the book version of this is the source of one of the biggest compliments I ever got. A reviewer said that I'm the Bruce Lee of memory, which is very, very nice. And, it's nicer coming from her and how she said it, and how she came, the little story she tells on that review of how she came to even thinking of me as the Bruce Lee of memory. But, it's kind of true, because it's just helpful little tips and getting you motivated, because motivation is one of the biggest things that so many people lack in learning a language, and yet it's incredibly easy to create and maintain if you can just get yourself started. So there's that. And then I want to give you how to memorize Chinese poetry, because it's got something in it called the pillar technique, and this has been so helpful. And I've shared it with other Chinese speakers, had a chat with Alex Mullen, the current reigning world memory champion, about it. And you have to ask him, but he thought that was a kind of a neat idea. And it is a neat idea, even if he didn't think so. But it's more than a neat idea. It's a technique, it's a strategy, and it works really well with Chinese, particularly when these phrases get longer and longer. And you can use it for more than just Chinese, but it seems to be just brilliant and beautiful for Chinese. So how do you get all this material? Well, you use this link, magneticmemorymethod.com/YT Chinese. Remember, the emphasis here is on actually getting access to these lists of questions at a beginner, elementary, intermediate level, and my emphasis is on giving you the tools so you can rapidly just play around with these questions, hear them, and commit them to memory. And that's what this whole channel is all about. So, click subscribe if you aren't already. Hit that like button to show YouTube that you like this kind of education on the platform, and then I can continue helping you. And that's a real great honor and privilege. And another way I can help you is by giving you access to this secret Facebook area, where if you're the kind of learner who learns by, and most of us are actually, if we just sit down and admit it, we translate out of our minds stuff into different representational modes. So if you've remembered something silently in your head and then you write about it in writing, you're much more likely to remember it, because it's now in another mode. It's in your muscle memory too. And then if you speak it, and if you hear someone else speaking it, which is what this is all about, then you're so much more likely to succeed with your memory. And then, of course, if you have the ultimate language learning secret, more success, more is available to you. So when you think about it, native speakers are priceless when you can just have them on autopilot. And when you get a community like this Facebook group, which should easily be worth $47 a month, where you have the opportunity to have me comment and other people using the magnetic memory method and Chinese Vault together comment and interact with you, you get that. You don't have to pay this. If you use this special link that I'm giving you, you get this free. You get my Memory Palace training. You get tone control. You get the ultimate language learning secret. You get how to memorize Chinese poetry. And all of this is getting quite premium pricing here. But when you say, I'm really interested in this, you're going to get all those bonuses for free. So that's going to be a big fat zero. And you're going to get the Chinese Vault. So for information about how to register and get all my bonuses, just go to magneticmemorymethod.com/YT Chinese, and we'll all make a deal together, and it's going to help your Chinese. And you know what? It's not for everyone. So if you're not a serious learner, if you're not really interested in hearing Chinese native speakers and having access to them 24/7 so that you can practice your Chinese and really, really get it into long-term memory, then let's just call a spade a spade. This isn't for you, but I thank you for watching this video. But if this is for you, then check out magneticmemorymethod.com/YT Chinese. And I thank you very, very much for your support. And, I hope you look forward to the next little presentation of my own mnemonics. And incidentally, I should say that all of this is written up in the Facebook group. I'm writing and writing and writing all of the stuff, and I'm even going to produce a book, and people who are in that Facebook group are going to get the PDF version of that book when it's done. And so to be notified, to have it instantly added into this Facebook group when it's ready, just make sure that you have said yes to this offer. Go to magneticmemorymethod.com/YT Chinese. You're going to love it. You won't regret it. Angel is amazing. She'll take good care of you. Underneath all of these little areas, there are discussion places, so you can ask questions. The answers come. People trade notes. It's amazing. You'll get more exposure to characters as well, and you'll talk about what all this really means at deeper levels, which is again part of helping your memory while you are interacting with real native speakers and you're in control. And you don't have to say, could you please repeat that? You can just hit question 4 50 times, 1,000 times if you want, and you'll be able to hear that question asked to your heart's content, so you can do stuff with tone control and get it into long-term memory with the correct tones. And it's absolutely amazing. So one last time, magneticmemorymethod.com/YT Chinese. Look forward to seeing you in there. And until we speak again, keep yourself magnetic.